Greetings, one and all. Boy, oh boy, this is a strange situation, ladies and gentlemen. I have never heard of anything quite like this ever happening before in the history of hockey. In a few months' time, the 2018 Winter Olympics will be held in Pyeongchang, South Korea, between the 9th and the 25th of February. And due to some rather unique circumstances, it looks as though the men's hockey tournament will be held without the world's best players from both the National Hockey League and potentially the Continental Hockey League. So now we as fans are all left wondering, well, where does that leave men's hockey, and who will be competing for Canada, America, or Russia's national teams? Well, let's delve deeper into this, folks, and look at what is going on, what has happened, and what might happen next. So for those of you who are unaware, the International Olympic Committee, or the IOC for short, announced this last week that Russia has been banned from competing in the upcoming Winter Olympic Games due to their massive doping scandal over the last few years, including the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi. If you want to know more about the details of how Russia did what they did and how for quite a long time they got away with what they did, watch Icarus on Netflix. It's a fantastic documentary that explains the situation perfectly. So this ban of Russia means that there will be no Team Russia in the men's hockey tournament this coming Winter Olympics. However, Russian athletes who are found clean of banned substances by the IOC will be allowed to compete in the games under the Olympic flag and be known as Olympic athlete from Russia as opposed to Russian athlete, and have the Olympic anthem played if a Russian athlete wins a medal as opposed to the Russian national anthem. We could go into whether this was the right way for the IOC to handle this whole situation, but that's for another video. Right now, I'm just giving you the facts. So, there is no Team Russia going to Pyeongchang in February, which means that Russia's Continental Hockey League, regarded by most as the second best hockey league in the world and populated predominantly by Russian hockey players, will have to choose whether to allow their Russian athletes to compete under the Olympic flag or whether they will boycott the games completely and forbid their players from playing in South Korea in February. Another problem within this whole situation with the KHL is that the KHL has gradually increased its number of players from countries such as America, Canada, Sweden and Finland, made up predominantly of ex-NHL players who moved to Russia as they weren't finding work in America. So if they decide to boycott the games, the KHL need to decide if they're going to stop every player from all nationalities, including the innocent non-Russian players, from going to the games, or if they just stop the Russian players from competing. There has been no official announcement made by the KHL at the time of this recording, so this is all speculation and hearsay, you could argue right now, but it is something that could well happen given the fact that Russia have been banned. So if this situation does or doesn't come to fruition, it's important to keep in mind why certain decisions will be made. So, there is no Team Russia, and there could potentially be no KHL players going to South Korea. Couple this with the fact that the NHL is not sending their players either, due to no agreement being made on travel and accommodation costs, plus the disruption it would cause to the NHL schedule. They lose basically a month of NHL schedule time, and we now have the situation where the two best leagues in the world won't be sending their players to the Winter Olympics. The best players won't be playing on the biggest international stage to decide which national team is the best of the best in the world. So because the NHL isn't sending its players, and the KHL might not be sending its players, Canada and the United States have a limited pool of players to choose from, and are going to be at a huge disadvantage compared to other major hockey countries like Sweden and Finland, who their native leagues in their own countries have permission to go to the Winter Olympics. All of the events that have taken place leave us with a very big question. Who is going to play for the Canadian and American national teams at the Winter Olympics then? If the NHL and KHL are out, the next logical place to look for players is the American Hockey League, or the AHL. Used mostly as a farm system for the NHL, with each NHL team having an AHL team affiliated with them, most players in the AHL are either on two-way contracts or minor league only AHL contracts. AHL players on two-way contracts cannot be selected for the Winter Olympics as their contract is with their respective NHL team, and the NHL aren't going, so that leaves many talented young prospects and recent high draft picks out of the mix for America and Canada. However, AHL players who are on minor league contracts only can be looked at for Pyeongchang and could well be playing in the Olympics in February. So the Canadian and American national teams will most likely start the creation of their rosters with the best minor league players available. Another route to choose could be the college player system from the NCAA. There has been a rise in the number of college players making the jump from college straight to the NHL, players such as Will Butcher, Alex Kerfoot, Jimmy Vesey and Johnny Gaudreau. So there is a chance of finding some solid talent and some diamonds in the rough, who if selected for the Olympic team, might turn some heads and get noticed more than they would have done if they'd stayed playing college hockey. And finally, if minor league and college players aren't going to do the job for America and Canada by themselves, they could also try the several major junior leagues full of teenage NHL prospects, such as the OHL, the QMJHL and the WHL. These leagues are of course where the majority of the NHL's prospect pool comes from, so if the national teams are looking for players that are works in progress but have high upside and solid potential, then they could well pick a few players up from these junior leagues. So America and Canada have the choice of minor leaguers, college players or major junior players. The situation that men's hockey has been thrown into could well mean that the Canadian and American national Olympic rosters might well be filled with teenage prospects. They could be icing a group of teenagers. Can you imagine that? In the Winter Olympics, two of the best hockey countries in the world icing a group of kids at the Winter Olympics. One thing's for sure though, this is going to be one of the craziest men's hockey tournaments at the Olympics in a very long time. And there you go. That is the current situation of men's hockey for the upcoming Winter Olympics. What do you think about the whole situation? Is it good, bad, or do you think Russia shouldn't have been banned? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.